We're going to focus on the week ahead and why Trump's favourite word, tariffs, is back in focus. Last Friday, Americans celebrated 4th of July, Independence Day, and Donald Trump had something extra to celebrate with the passing of the big, beautiful bill. This is the US budget bill, where he can now extend his tax cuts that he implemented back in 2017. Without that, Americans would face a significant increase in taxes next year. So one big positive for Americans there and the US economy. In addition, the details showed that they would eliminate taxes on tips and overtime, as well as 150 billion set aside to have a more tougher stance on immigration, as well as extra defence spending. So a real positive for Donald Trump on what he campaigned on, and that was passed on Friday. So it's a short-term win for the US administration and Trump, but longer term it does present risks with the US government, its debt continuing to expand, and it really needs stronger economic growth to help offset that. The main event this week will be all around US trade policy and Trump's favourite word, tariffs. On Wednesday, the 90-day pause on tariff increases for many countries around the world is set to expire. Over the last few days, tensions have been building. Trump late last week announced that he'd be sending out letters today to around 10 to 12 different countries, highlighting the consequences in terms of additional tariffs countries will face if they don't come to a deal with the US. Now, this is expected. If they don't come to a deal, these countries, it will come into force on the 1st of August. Countries like Japan, Vietnam, in the European Union as well, have still yet to come to an agreement with the US. And we've heard from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent over the weekend also flagging that tariffs will come into force on the 1st of August, and these will be very high, very much like we saw on the 2nd of April, if a deal hasn't been agreed. However, he also stated that in the coming days he expects some big announcements on trade deals with various countries. So it certainly will dominate markets this week, but it's also worth reflecting that equity markets have been grinding higher and reaching new all-time highs in the US again last week. So markets still very much focus on the fundamentals, corporate earnings, and the growth backdrop rather than the tariff headlines so far. Elsewhere, it's going to be a relatively quiet week in terms of economic news. Our calendar's pretty quiet. Investors are likely really to shrug their shoulders in terms of the economic growth data that's going to come out from the UK later this week, as well as the Federal Reserve's latest meeting minutes. It's all going to be about tariffs and trade policy. That's all from us today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
This video is not a recommendation or personal financial advice. With investing, your capital is at risk. Investments can fluctuate in value, and you may get back less than you invest.